Hi guys, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to episode 3 of Mumdane. Today we're doing things a bit differently. I'm really excited actually because we're doing our first collaboration with a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine. She's been an amazing friend of mine for so long, and we've known each other for quite a while now. And her name is Hanan. She has been she's running her own page, Little Drops of Sunshine. You can check her out. And yeah, I'm so sorry if I sound a bit off. It's because I've been having congestion and I'm a bit out of breath, but yeah, that's all there is to it. So I'm just gonna wait till she comes on live. Okay, she's on. And Hanan, I think if you request to join the live. Yes.
Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you so
Sorry.
much for doing this, and welcome to episode 3 of Mumdane.
Thank you. You're acting so formal. Let's not be formal because I'm not good at being formal.
um, yeah, go ahead.
No, you start.
So today we're gonna be talking about like I generally do address a lot of different topics, a lot of different angles of doing activities with kids, but we thought we would address it from the angle of a child who is special, a child who has slightly different needs than a child who is quote unquote normal. So, and I thought Hanan would be ideal to have on the show for it, because Hanan, yeah, go ahead. I think you have a child who has SPD.
Right. I do have an atypical child. And the thing about special needs is it's such a vast subject. Like each child with special needs is so unique. First of all, there's different kinds of special needs. One is like really apparent physical special needs, like could be physically handicapped or blind, deaf, inability to speak, etc. So that's one kind of special needs, which is an entirely different kind of a special needs compared to what my son has, which is more of a neurological atypicalness, which is neurological rather than physical. You know what that means? I mean, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like a whole different kind of a special needs thing. You get it? And each child is so unique when it comes to special needs that you can't just take one thing and put it on everyone else. It's not like one ruler for all. Am I even using the right words, right phrase?
Yeah.
You get the point. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what's our first
Yeah,
topic?
that makes sense. So I actually wanted to just give my audience a better understanding. Like if you could just share with us how you handle your daily life, your routines, your breakfast, the kind of activities that your kids prefer to do. Is it different from other activities that other kids like to do? How about their outdoor, when they go outdoors, how do they handle themselves? How do they handle themselves indoor? If you could just shed some light on that.
The thing okay, when I'm going to talk about special needs, I'm going to talk about what I have experienced with my own son. Because like I said, special needs is such a vast subject and it's so unique to each child and so unique to each kind of special needs or a disability that exists. So with my child, he has SPD, which he's diagnosed with sensory processing disorder, but he's also waiting for his autism screening. And as days go by, like his therapist is like, okay, there's a lot of chance that he is on the spectrum of autism. Because, when they're younger, you keep thinking, okay, it's just a toddler behavior. But when you see that the child is growing up, but he still has certain behaviors which you would expect to go over age, they don't seem to go. So it's most likely that he is on the spectrum.
Sorry, could you just elaborate on SPD for those of us who don't know what it is?
Okay. So sensory processing disorder is basically a disorder in processing sensory input, right? So what happens with sensory disorders, this is going to be a very long life, by the way, if you're going to go there this way. Okay. So the thing is, everything we see, hear, feel, taste around us, these are all of it is sensory input. Like I could see a bag that is blue, and my sense organ tells me it's a bag that is blue. But there are people who are colorblind, so they have a disorder in their input of sensory skills. You understand what I'm saying? What they see is not what they actually see, right? So, I had given an example of a frog. When you touch a frog's skin, like if I were to touch my own hand, I will feel it's soft. But if I were to touch a frog, what the frog feels is rough. It's almost like a sandpaper. So it's because that's how the frog's sense organ or the brain processes that input. So kids with sensory processing disorders, they do not process the input, the sensory input, the way like normal people do. So that's why it's kind of like an atypical way. It's not like a typical way of processing input. So some children, and it's not like one thing fits all. Again, with SPD, it's such a vast thing. Some kids are avoiders of certain or a sensory input, and some people seek it. With my son, he really seeks oral input, so he likes to chew on things. It's almost like when a child is teething, they keep wanting to chew it. Like they keep wanting to chew something or the other. They'll like chew on teethers or anything, books and stuff like that. So with my son, he's got all his teeth, but he still has that urge to chew on things because of that. He seeks that input. But he's an avoider when it comes to sounds. He's very sensitive to loud sounds. He can't take blender or vacuum cleaner or even the water faucet in the bathroom.
So, but you do have kids who do tend to stay away from loud sounds. So what draws the line between, like, what's a red flag that you have to look for in order to get your child screened? Like, what were the red flags for you?
Like, see, it's very normal for children to get scared of a pressure cooker, for example, or a child to get scared of the vacuum cleaner. But the thing is, you will see typical behavior, you know how in the books they call it a stereotypical behavior. You will see these behaviors which you won't see in a typical child. Like, for example, my son Abdullah, he has a habit of doing this constantly on his ears. And even if there is no sound, he just does that because it kind of gives him a feeling of security. And when the sound, like when there's some big sound, you will see him hiding, running, and you will not see, like, for example, if I have a normal child, like my daughter, I can clearly see the difference between the two, even though she's just 8 months old. At first, when I used the vacuum cleaner, she was very scared. The second time I used it, she was scared, but now she knows what it is. Abdullah knows what a vacuum cleaner is, but then he still can't take the sound of it. It's not like he's scared of the sound, he just can't process it properly. You understand? I think something's wrong with your life. Your face is going circular. I don't know what I'm saying. I think something's wrong with your life. You'll see me here. Wait, we might want to cancel this.
I can see you and I can hear you. No. It's fine. It's working. It's back on track again.
All right, yeah.
I can see you and I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was my connection.
I'm not sure what it was. Okay, so the daily stuff, like you mentioned. SubhanAllah, the thing is, most children, I wouldn't say all, most children who are atypical, they really need a routine in life. When I say routine, it does not mean like fixed time, like it has to be at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, not that kind of routine, but they need to have like an understanding, okay, we get up, we brush our teeth, we wash our face, we have breakfast. And if this routine gets messed up, it's like they can't control themselves. So they probably might go wild, like destroying things, or they might have a meltdown, or it gets really bad. So it's very important for me to keep that routine for him. I mean, if those who are following me see, like, I have a particular time for my breakfast, and even my breakfast, I have a certain food that's like every single day. Because if there's that, like I have eggs every single day. No matter what happens, I have to make eggs. It kind of is like a comfort thing for him, like, okay, this is breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something how he understands, especially because he does not speak and can't express himself. That is something I kind of do because I know that makes him feel like, okay, this is my breakfast. But if I were not to have eggs, he was not going to have food. He's not going to eat his breakfast at all.
I see.
Mm. So that's like basically, the thing with the daily thing, that's my main thing. I need to have a routine. Like, okay, even if I'm to go out, I could just go out anytime. The timing is not the problem, but I have a routine before we go out.
Mm-hmm.
Like get him to wash his face. We do a little bit of jogging inside the house. He's relaxed. He knows the procedure to go out of the house. Before going bed, we have a little bath. We have to wash our face and hands if we're not taking a bath. Quran and all of that. So we have that kind of a bedtime routine, waking up routine. Everything has to go according to routine for us. And in a way, it's a very good thing because Rehana is following on that. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this thing even helps like typical children too. Again, there's something going on.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
it's fine now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fine now. Okay, and then you
Yeah.
asked about play. This is
Yes.
really nice, interesting question. I remember exploring creativity. And that's something I really found like a big difference. It's actually not a big difference, but the thing is, okay, with Abdullah in particular, he cannot do like certain creative things, or I do not allow him to do it. And his therapist also has suggested that we do not do it with him just yet because he's not ready for it. Like, for example, crayons, markers, paint, or anything that has to do drawing and coloring, we don't do that at all. And that's because I like it. I think I mentioned he's like an oral seeker, so everything that I do, he eats it. And so, I mean, I know every child has a sense of creativity that he wishes to express. And if I don't give him one way, I have to try to let him express it in somewhere else. And that's why I do more of a baking, cooking, that aspect of things. So there he can express all his creativity he wants. He loves cracking eggs, beating eggs, and even decorating cupcakes. We do a terrible job of it, but we still do it. And he enjoys that. He really loves doing it. And when it comes to like painting and stuff, we haven't gotten to it yet. Like we used to do it, and it's so exhausting on my part and for him because I have to keep pulling it out of his mouth, and then it keeps going into his mouth somehow.
Yeah.
And so we like try to work on it very slowly. I take it out like once a month and see how it works on him, and if it doesn't work, we try for 2 to 3 days, and then it goes back inside because it's not working.
Yeah.
And indoor activities are what we do is mostly like, when it comes to creative activities, we focus more on baking or even folding clothes. You have no idea how kids get creative when it comes to folding clothes. I mean, it's a really interesting thing if you look from a child's perspective. They can express their creativity just anywhere.
Yeah, that's very true.
It doesn't have to be a book and a pen or a crayon or an artwork. They'll do it with sticks and twigs and stones and rocks and just anything. Blocks. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't need anything expensive. They don't need, I think I addressed this topic in my last Mumdane video. They don't need like anything mind-blowing, as long as they don't even need anything in general. Just, they do have the ability to use their mind, to use their imagination to make anything out of nothing.
That's really true. And you know what? Even if you don't give them anything, they will start getting expressive vocally, and they'll start singing.
Yeah.
No, I'm like serious. I've really noticed, and Abdullah is really into singing. So, I mean, he does not have his words yet, but he does humming and stuff like that. And then he really gets expressive that way, and like he gets his creativity out that way. It's really shocking to see how when you don't give them something, they have an outlet. They seek another outlet.
Yeah,
that's very
true. Yeah. So, okay. So another thing that I wanted to ask you was, and I feel like this is a main topic that comes. See, I personally, I have not met in my family, I have not experienced any special needs kids or any kids who are different. But like you do, when you do go out, you see kids who throw tantrums, and you have the moms who are embarrassed half of the time and they apologize. And I've seen a couple of instances where that happens. So as a mom who could or who has been in that situation, how do you handle it? Like, what do you expect? Do you prepare yourself for a tantrum? If so, how do you prepare yourself? What do you expect when there's a tantrum? How do you handle it? How do you help calm him
Okay,
down?
that's a very good thing. Okay, so I do have a lot of public tantrums. A lot. Like I can't even mention it. We do have like just anywhere. And it could be, first of all, I think I have posts on this about tantrums and meltdowns.
Yeah, you have. It's down your profile here.
So when it's a meltdown, there's nothing I can do about it. I just take him out of the environment and I let him, take it all out of him and let it go, right? But if it's a tantrum, I do prepare him for it. I do prepare him. And this is what actually my therapist told me, that before you go, even though you think he doesn't understand, prepare. Like even if you're going to the store, tell him, Abdullah, you're going to the store and you're not going to get anything. We're not buying you anything. Like if you're going grocery shopping, just tell them, we're going to the store, but we're not buying you anything today. So you can't be crying. And it's not like, okay, we're going to go there and he's not going to cry. He is going to cry because he's a child. And do I apologize to people? Yes, because it is inconvenient to everybody else that my child is crying in the middle of the store. Or just today we went to the library and he cried. We went to a library in Iowa City. So I do not have an Iowa City library card. And he cried and cried and cried because he wanted to check out some books. And we said we can't, right? And I'm not going to go and get a library card for just one day. So we had to just sit. But yes, I did apologize to people, but at the same time, it's something like you just know that that's a child's behavior, and that's just how he expresses. And once we get him out of the library, he's just going to forget about it in a matter of minutes. I mean, and if I were to yell at him and shout at him and whatever, he might never forget about it, even for years to come.
Yeah.
But this is like a short thing. His father came in, picked him up, we went out. We told him you can't have it, and we just it was like such a short span thing, and it got over in the car. But one thing we really need to understand, is like children are so different. Like this worked with my son, it might not work with some other child, right? And I've read a lot of books on parenting and dealing with tantrums. And subhanAllah, I really feel one big flaw in these parenting books. I don't know if you have seen and read these things. I mean, I don't know if you've read and noticed this flaw in 80% of parenting books that talk about children tantrum, is that they mention solutions like you and your child are the only people in the world.
Yeah, that's true.
So what they will say is, okay, if the child is crying, you do this. And they'll give practical solutions, but they do not talk about the other influences that are around that will influence your response to the child's behavior.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, for example, we went to the store the other day. I was wearing Rayhana and I was having Abdullah. And he just decided to lie down in the middle of the street, middle of the parking lot, and refuse to move. And typically, in the parenting book, what they would say is, give the child an option, don't force your opinion on him, and this and that, and like a lot of things, which is very practical probably. But at that moment, in this winter, I had just had to drag him irrespective of whether he cries or not.
Yeah,
And if you take a standard, like if I were to give an example, what works with me, and if you take this standard and try to apply and it doesn't work, and you want to use a different method that would probably seem harsher, like you might want to impose yourself on the child, it really does not make you as a bad mom or a bad parent. Because I have been there and I've always felt like, am I doing something wrong? Like every time I had to drag him out with force, like not like hitting, but like imposing this thing on him. It made me feel, am I being bad? But then that's when I realized these books do not talk about other influences that are actually
like the ground zero reality of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about, like, I know you're not supposed to hit your kid. But what happens when a parent who does not understand where their child is coming from, or has a child who's undiagnosed, what if they think that, okay, hitting is the way to go with about this? Like, how does that affect the child who does have special needs?
Hitting, hitting really it'll affect the child whether it has special needs or not.
That's very true.
But when the child does have special needs, it just is worse because the child is helpless to another level. For example, Abdullah has a habit of chewing on things, and you tell him don't chew and don't chew and don't chew. So eventually I start hitting him. It's not his fault that he's chewing. If he was a non-special need child and he still chews, despite the fact that he understands, I'm not saying hitting is the way, but he is doing something wrong knowingly. But when a child is doing something where he has no power on, it's just taking this whole wrongness to a next level. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe right now when he's 2 or 3 or 4, it might not really affect him. But when he is going to grow up, what you do today is going to affect him then.
Yeah.
It's going to have a lot of impact, or like his whole outlook to the world is going to be on what you've done with your child today. He's going to be either outgoing or bold or timid or whatever his qualities are going to be in the future. It's everything from what we do today to this child. And the thing with special needs kids is like it's not something you can stop. You can't stop a bad behavior just by beating. It could work on a typical child maybe, but it does not work on an atypical child no matter what. Like there's no way, because I'll tell you what, I know people who were beaten, who are atypical and are beaten, and they still do it because it's not something it's not something they control.
You can't suppress it.
It's not their fault they're doing it, Yeah. You can't force a colorblind person to see a color.
Yeah.
That's how it is. You can't force a blind man to see something. It's not going to happen. No matter how much you beat them or don't beat them or whatever, they're not going to see it. That's how it is. It's not in their control at all. So, yeah, that's the thing.
Okay. And what about when it comes to responsibility? Like, see, for me, I come from a Montessori background. I come from Montessori training. And all the women in my family, we're all Montessori trained. So we believe in giving them responsibility from an early age, chores. Mainly it was chores around the house. How does that come into play with a special needs child, like in your scenario? Do you have him put his plates away? Do you have him maybe brush his own teeth? Do you have him clean up his messes?
Yeah. He does have a certain amount of responsibility. I would say, like, he has to put his toys away and he has to put his plates away. That's like the only thing he has to do. Does he brush his own teeth? No. Brushing teeth is a whole big battle of Badr in our house. It's a big thing because I don't understand. Like I have not understood this, and I have even mentioned to his therapist about it. And showers or giving him a bath, these two things are terrible. Like it's again with sensory things. He loves water, but for some reason he does not like bath water. I don't understand how that works. I think it's a soap that doesn't suit him. I don't know what it is. So brushing teeth and stuff is forced upon him. But he does have like responsibility when it comes to putting things away and stuff like that, his things away or his clothes away or stuff, yeah. But the thing is, when it comes to special needs, when I'm talking about special needs, I'm particularly talking about my child. I don't want other parents to feel like this is a general thing, because it's not a general thing. When it comes to special needs, like with him, when I have to delegate responsibility to him, it's not something I can tell, okay, Abdullah, from today you're going to put your plate away, and then every time I remind him he's going to put his plate away. It's not going to work like that for me at all. One thing, what we do, because he is speech delayed, and he's even receptive speech delayed to a great extent, and then he's even regressed a lot. So when I talk about receptive speech delay, is basically, it means what he receives, like odd. What he hears, he doesn't really understand that much, right? So if I tell him, okay, Abdullah, put the plate away, he's probably not going to get it. Or one day he's going to understand, the next day he's not going to understand. And it's not because he's, what a person would think is, okay, he understood yesterday, so
Yeah.
why can't he do it today? No, because he has constant regressions that go on with him.
Mm-hmm.
We have to, we take 2 steps and we take 1 step back when it comes to speech with him. So it's not like he is very responsible, even though I try. Many times I have to like take him, pick things up with his hands, holding my hands, and then put it in the sink and stuff like that. So I feel like when I have to delegate responsibility, it's more like me doing things, trying to help him understand that he has to do it. Sometimes he does it by himself, and it's not easy. Like the responsibility part, it's like really not easy. Even with putting toys away. What I have come to do right now is putting toys away is a whole game for him. Like his blocks. We have these blocks. The lid of this thing is like this. So, wait, these are the blocks. And there's the lid. So all the blocks that are on the floor, he takes it as a puzzle, whatever you call it, shape sorter.
Yeah.
And he plays it and puts everything in. The same thing with his mega blocks. He makes a big tower and then we put the whole big tower in his crate. So putting toys away itself is a game. And he has, like I said, we have a fixed routine before bed. So we put the toys away, we sweep up the room, and then we go take a shower, and then we recite Quran and we go to bed. So when it comes to responsibilities, that's like the only two he has, which is like, what's the word? It is incorporated in his routine life, in the routine that we have created for him. Like even with, oh, by the way, when I talk about food, putting plates away, it's only breakfast, because he does not have lunch and dinner. So
I think
yeah,
meals is a whole other topic. We will definitely touch up on that
meals is a
on a
whole
different
other
segment.
topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, meals is a whole
Yeah.
other topic.
Yeah, no, there is more that I want to explore with you, and inshallah, we'll definitely do that in a different segment because we have so much to cover as it is. And
Yeah.
So I mean, this segment will just address the topics that we are addressing right now, but definitely we
Yeah.
will talk about meals some other time.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Right.
Yeah. And what about like how is he as a sibling, like his role as a sibling? How does that?
That's one of the most shocking things I have seen, and I have always heard about this. I've always heard about this, that children with special needs are overly kind and loving. I've always heard this, but I had never experienced it in my life, like, and I have seen that with him when it comes to his sister. So when his sister was born, my biggest fear, because he was a very active child. He was a very active child, and he was like, it was to an extent, I was very scared that he might do something to his sister, intentionally or unintentionally, it was a big fear, and because him running away and all of that, we've had like big episodes with that. That's a whole different subject. We had those things going on. I was really scared that what if he just grabs his sister and runs away, It's scary. And he has had times that he would pick her up out of love and take her out, and he's like a 2-year-old child.
Yeah.
So, but then I have noticed he's like the most loving and caring brother who would never hurt her. And Allahumma barik. And the thing is, the other day, I had shared this picture with you. The other day I made cupcakes.
Yeah, I remember that.
What we did, I made cupcakes and I put it out to cool on the cooling rack. And I left both these kids on the bed in the bedroom, and I went to the bathroom. And by the time I come out of the bedroom, this child has carried his sister out of the bedroom all the way to the kitchen. It's not closed. He brings her all the way to the kitchen. He gives her a cupcake, and he takes a cupcake. And they're both on the floor with crumbs all over, and they're having cupcake. I didn't know if I was supposed to get angry or I was supposed to melt with, aww. It was so adorable.
No, the picture was adorable. Yeah, I remember.
It was. That. And then the other day, just today, I was praying Maghrib when he comes, like we had croissants in the house, so he brings a croissant and he gives one to her and he takes it. I mean, he doesn't have to, but it's just a thing like, okay, one is for my sister, one is for me. It's just so much protection and love for her.
It's ingrained into his head that, okay, anything I do there's something else for my sister as well.
Yes. And like
Mm.
even I don't have to tell him to do things for her. Like when I'm changing diaper, he's gonna bring a diaper and give me. It's not like I have to tell it to him. He's gonna do it by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we're going outside, he'll bring her jacket. It's like, he'll bring her sweater. So there is this thing that he's so protective about her. Allahumma barak. I don't know how it happened. It's
Mm-hmm.
just who he is, I think. Allahumma barak.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
And
Yeah.
it's not only with her. I have noticed he is like that even with other kids.
Uh-huh.
Like in general, like when we go out, once he knows a person, he's very not friendly when it comes to strangers.
Uh-huh.
But when he sees a stranger for a little longer time, he will get really protective about them. He'll share his toys,
Mm-hmm.
especially if the person looks like a person who needs
Help.
help. Yeah. Like he's overly friendly with an old person.
Mm-hmm.
Really old person, he will go and sit with them. Yeah, and they love it. They love it. They love sitting with him and talking to him.
Yeah.
Old people like it. I think I should take him to an old age home once. He just loves that. Even today we were at the library and he just sat with the old lady. He gave her toy. He gave her his toys and all of that. It was just adorable. So I feel like when he sees someone in need, he's really overly attached to that person. I don't know why, but he's really like that.
MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Thank you so much, Hanan, for doing this with me.
No problem.
I know it was your first live and must
It
have
was my
been,
first live and it was also 1 o'clock.
Thank you so much. And I did want to cut it off in half an hour, but there is so much more that I want to discuss with you.
Yeah.
We'll definitely explore like future collaborations as well, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Definitely, like all of the information that you shared, a lot of it was new for me, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of people will benefit from it. So thank
Inshallah.
you. Jazakallah khair. May Allah
Thank you
reward
for having me. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you for joining me. See
Yalla.
you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.